Welcome, and thank you for joining us for our Technical Talks webinar. I'm happy to say that my good friend Steve Lovering from Citygreen is on here, and we're going to have him share his screen. He has the same presentation on his computer. And for those regulars who attend a lot of our Tech Talks webinar, you're going to miss those first 5 or 6 slides you're used to seeing, where I introduce our company, Bowman Construction Supply, here in Colorado. Across the Midwest, we're known as ASP Enterprises and Quick Supply Company. And out in the Pacific Northwest, we're Cascade Geosynthetics. And that sounds like 4 different company names, but the truth is we are one company. We just continue to grow, and we leave every local company with its own identity and the same people that have worked there for, in some cases, over 30 years. In fact, this year, ASP Enterprises is celebrating its 45th year in operation. But I do want you to know that not only do we have expert salespeople across those 12 or 13 states that we serve, but we also have one of the best logistics companies I've seen local or operate on a local level. We have warehouses, outdoor yards, we have trucks of all sizes, donkeys to unload the trucks. And that is the advantage we have over a lot of our competitors. So if any of your site construction supply material needs, call us, call your local rep. I am our civil engineer. We only have one civil engineer for all of those companies and all those locations. I love talking about stormwater products. I'm especially interested in innovation and the latest in technology, you'd say, even though I'm not very good at running a computer and phone, apparently. But my friend Steve Lovering is at the forefront of the stormwater business, and you'll see a lot of pictures of trees on their slides, and we love that because that is really their bread and butter and where they got started. And we care about that. So we're working with City of Denver, and we're working on some exciting projects here where they're trying to add to their tree canopy coverage. But Steve has some more information beyond just trees. And with that, Steve.
Thanks very much, Bill. Okay, thanks, team. This is great chatting to you. Love the opportunity. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, my name is Steve Lovering. I've been with Citygreen now for just over 4 years. I grew up back home in Yorkshire, England. And back in Yorkshire, England, I was walking around. Obviously, England is a country full of large trees, and aesthetically, it's a very pleasant place to be, especially where I'm from in God's country there. And you're walking around city centres in Yorkshire and anywhere in England, and I noticed from a fairly early age that the trees in these urban areas didn't match the ones in the fields to the side of me. You start wondering, why is that? Got into landscape architecture a few years later, went to university in Leeds, England for that. Moved over to Canada and worked in an office for a while, which is where I actually came across the products that we're going to talk about today. Now roll on a few years, and we are helping cities across the United States and Canada with not only the tree canopy, but we're bringing some really innovative ways to treat and store our stormwater. And I think that's what you guys are going to find really interesting today. So we are literally changing the world here, guys. It's a fantastic space, growing all the time, changing all the time. And I look forward to sharing with you some of the things that we've been learning over the last couple of years here. So with that, I'll get started. Okay, so when we look at urban environmental challenges of a soil cell system, there's four main components of this that we're looking at. The first would be trees and community spaces. The second is clean waterways. The third being mitigating the urban heat island effect. And the fourth is meeting urban canopy targets. Now let's just drill into them a little bit before we really get into the guts of the presentation. So this third slide here talks to trees and community spaces. We as human beings like walking around areas which have got nice tree canopy. Trees are very good for our health as well. And also in terms of shade, they provide a lot of shade and quality in some of our warmer cities across the US. Now, there is lots of issues with having trees in community spaces or in urban spaces. And the main issue being, how do we make the tree roots? What room do we allow for these tree roots so that these trees can become big, large, mature trees, providing all of that shade, aesthetics, and health benefits that we require of them? This has been a problem for the last 30 or 40 years. As you can see in the picture at the bottom of the slide here, this is what's typically happening. These trees are just trying to find whatever nutrients they can, whatever soil volume, whatever they can get at to enable them to grow and become these large mature trees. So that's the first area that we're going to be helping in. Clean waterways. We've done so much in this space lately, and it's probably the most exciting area of our growth as a company. Too often now we're sending all of our polluted stormwater full of silts and sediments, oil, petroleum and metal pollutants into our city systems, and it's causing all sorts of problems, backing up. You know, all of this pollution is running into rivers, streams, oceans in some cases. So we've come up with a solution for this, which again I'm going to talk to you about in a little while. The urban heat island effect. There is nothing on this planet that helps more with the urban heat island than large canopy trees. If you look at the two images in front of you there, the one on the top is in a nice shaded street. The one at the bottom is got no tree canopy whatsoever, and look at the differences in the temperatures. There's a vast difference. So again, this is something we can help you with. And then most cities across the US have a urban canopy target. Sorry, most large cities across the US. This target is typically between 1 to 10% over the next 10 years. Again, regionally, depending where you are, that number is going to massively change. But again, we're helping cities with this. We're helping cities adapt this. We're helping cities grow these canopy targets to where they want to be. Now, today we're going to discuss a little bit on soil vaults for healthy trees, tree root management and tree protection. We're going to take, it's going to be a very short portion of the whole presentation. And then we're going to get into the guts of it. It's all going to be about the stormwater and the way that we're running it through soil for trees, for storage, for collection. Lots of really interesting stuff in this presentation. So firstly, just to talk about the tree health side of it. This is how much we should be, this is how much room we should be allowing for these tree roots in an urban environment. So as you can see, the large circle there is what we should be doing. This 4 foot by 4 foot square is what we have been doing for the last 30 years. So you can imagine these tree roots, once they start growing, they actually wrap themselves around the root ball. They're not very secure, but more than that, all of the nutrients that's within the soil, then they run out of that after 2 to 3 years, stop growing, and eventually they die. So street trees in urban environments typically struggle. You walk down any main street in the USA and you will notice this time and time and time again. So that's, if you like, part one to the problem that we're solving here. We're getting these large street trees. And this helps us with the stormwater thing as well, which again, I'll go into in a second. So this is our soil cell system, or soil vault system. This is called the Stratavault. And the reason this Stratavault exists is it's a structural module that goes underneath the sidewalk or underneath the road and supports that sidewalk. Now, while supporting the sidewalk, it also has a huge void space within the modules. And this void space has been up until a few years ago, typically used for soil for tree roots. Now, we're actually sending our stormwater or our rainfall that falls onto the road into these areas here. And the soil and the tree roots within the modules are actually helping clean the rainfall, or the stormwater as we call it. So that's a bit the same thing for anybody not that familiar with the concepts. Stormwater is basically rainfall. When I mention stormwater, that's what I'm talking about. Now, on top of that, engineers have also been specifying our system to compartmentalize and organize pipes and utilities, underground infrastructure underneath these sidewalks. So this is a really big space as well for us. Typically, the engineer doesn't like to have tree roots around his pipes and utilities. Well, now we've come out with a way to organize and compartmentalize, so we actually remove that issue altogether, and we give the engineers the peace of mind that they need to use these systems. When it comes to strength, we've got a very strong module here. We can go underneath, again, roads, parking lots, parking areas, whatever that may be, and we actually apply the load in kilonewtons, and then those results come out as a per square inch basis. This is we have a connected module, which means that we share that load across all of the modules there. That helps us again with the strength thing. And we manufacture our product out of 100% recycled plastic, which we believe is very important, and we're very proud of this. I would say that we get specified for this reason the most of any. And then working with services, utilities, guys, this is a really important part of it as well. There isn't basically a city in North America that we can't work with and we can't utilize our system and get all of the cubic footage of soil that is required for these trees and for this stormwater. So yeah, just a bit of a heads up on this really. If you ever get any feedback saying, hey, we've got too many pipes, too much utilities down here, too much underground infrastructure, no problem. Our system is the most flexible in the world. We can actually cut our system as well without compromising any of its strength. So these are all really positive things. And in terms of diameter for the openings for pipes and utilities, again, no problem. This our module's been configured so that all pipes that go in the ground at these heights will fit through our system very easily. Also, foot compaction, no issue here either. We do recommend that when we're putting the soil into these systems that we walk through the soil to compact them to a nice level. This is good for tree growth. When it comes to stormwater, it's a little different. And again, I'll get into that in a second. And the system that we manufacture here is that strong that we actually have, we can actually have vehicles run across the top of the product. Now we do have to have some sort of plywood sheathing or a granular material of sorts on top of the modules, but again, very doable. And we do also have a tree protection line. So this is a really interesting space. We've been selling tree grates for a long time, but we've actually come up with a stainless steel version, and we can actually cut away the metal here, the metal inserts, as the trunk gets bigger and bigger. So again, interesting space. We also have an Invisigrate here, which is an invisible tree grate in case we've got a really nice paving product that we want to make front and center. We can put that paving product into the tree grate and go from there. And again, these are all products that these distributors like Bowman.
Going a little bit robotic, so I'm curious if we're having a bit of a connection issue.
Oh, really?
So I'm going to need to switch this over. I might need to switch this over to our computer if that continues.
Okay. All right. We'll see. I'll maybe slow down a bit and see if it fixes itself. Can you just let me know, Bill, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. They said you sound fine. I've got Chantal said that you sound fine. So just keep on trucking, buddy. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation today, guys. This is, like I say, a really exciting space. So our Strataflow system is fairly unique in the industry because we are actually using it as a stormwater tank that goes underneath sidewalks, sometimes even in fields, underneath roads. And we have the ability to store a lot of the rainfall that comes down, keep that water under the ground for X amount of time, and then pull that water out via vacuum or via valve to seep into landscaping for plants, for trees, for really any means that we see necessary. So this is an interesting space. It does get a little bit more interesting than this when we get into the stormwater management piece and we're incorporating these with soil. So let's first of all, let's look at a residential application before we get into the commercial stuff. So residential application for these soil cells is huge. We're actually using these soil cells in a lot of older neighborhoods across Canada and the US. And these areas are actually used, where there's flooding and other problems. We can put these soil cells into the ground, put a mass of soil beneath any hardscaped areas, and capture a lot of this rainfall in these areas, while also feeding the trees. And it's a two-way system, which again I'll go into in a second. So these curb inlets, we were waiting for somebody to invent this for a few years, and then we decided, hey, let's do this ourselves. So this is a really fantastic curb inlet product that sits in the curb. Again, it collects all of that water, and then that water drains through into the area of soil cells, the large volume of soil where the trees are, or potentially where the storage tank is. Really, we've got endless opportunities in that space. So let's take a residential neighborhood now, for example, and we'll dig into this a little bit. So this is an older neighborhood. This neighborhood unfortunately does flood. And what we're doing right now is just sending all of the rainfall down the gutters into the regular catch basin. Now this catch basin can only take so much water. So once this fills up, if it backs up, of course this road is flooding. These houses typically might be flooding. There's lots of issues around this space. So what we're saying is, why not add our curb inlets into curb here in these two spots, and then we build what we call a Strataflow pit in this residential area, and we fill it with some materials. First of all, on the bottom is a pipe. This is an overflow pipe in case the stormwater builds up to a certain level. This pipe is then used to get rid of that water into the city system. Now, this water will at this point be clean water, which again I'll go into in a second. Now, once we put the pipe in there, the drainage, we then add a drainage layer above that pipe, and then we start putting the Stratavolt modules in place. So the Stratavolt modules go in like this. We then add a full layer of soil for the trees. Okay, and then we add more Stratavolt modules, and then we actually add 1 or 2 layers of filtration media. This filtration media it's more of a sandy mix, and this enables the stormwater to run through it very quickly, which is what we're after. And then again, the inlets are connected to a pipe matrix, a perforated pipe matrix, which is going to release that water into the filtration media. And the water is going to drain into the soil at the bottom, which is going to feed the trees. Now in this case, we've got a third type of media in here, which can be used, doesn't need to be, but certainly that's how we've designed it. And then the top of the Stratavolt goes on there. Now we then plant the tree. The beauty of this is that the tree roots and the soil, well, the tree roots in particular, will take up all of the pollution that's coming from the road. So all of these oil, metal, and petroleum pollutants, the tree's roots will actually take up a lot of these pollutants and use them for its growth and get rid of what it doesn't want out of its leaves. So it's really a fantastic way of cleaning the stormwater in a very natural way, and actually very inexpensive. If you compare this to going with a typical stormwater device like a Filtera or something like that, we've actually got a very inexpensive system here. And not only that, we're actually treating this water and running it through a lot of soil, which is really gonna do the job and clean it very nicely. Also, if you look at the trees, going back to the trees again, we're going to have a residential community with huge trees providing all of that shade aesthetics and health benefits, which is, let's be honest, it's what we're after. There's another visual there, the water draining in there, and again, the trees growing. Now let's look commercially. So we're looking now at more of an urban streetscape application. And this is really where you guys probably, the most of you would sit. And we're going to talk again about what we're doing with the Strataflow. So if you look at this image here, this on the left is a catch basin or a manhole, depending how your city does that. These would be in the middle of the road or they will be up against the curb. It really makes no difference at this point. But this here is a road. And what we're doing now as cities across the US and Canada is we're sending all of our stormwater into these catch basins, which is then flowing into our storm system. Now, the water that's going into our storm system is full of silts and sediments and those oil, petroleum, and metal pollutants. And again, we all know that once this water product enters our city systems, it's causing all sorts of issues, or it's flowing into rivers, oceans, and streams. So what we're saying is, why would we be sending water into there when we can send all of our water into the soil cell areas underneath the sidewalk? These areas are full of lots and lots and lots of soil and the tree roots. And again, the tree roots and the soil will clean all of the pollutants out of this stormwater. Now, we have got a device that sits in the catch basin, which is a pre-treatment device for silts and sediments. There's a few of these in the US. We actually manufacture our own. If any of you got any questions about what that product looks like, just let me know, and we can definitely get that that information to you. But yeah, the water that's entering the soil cells is actually a silt and sediment free product. And again, the soil and the tree roots are doing the rest. So we're producing a 95% clean water product here, which is unheard of in the urban environment. Now again, this is the area where the stormwater is cleaned, and this is a plan view of the sidewalk. This is everything that's happening underneath the sidewalk where this stormwater is going into. This pipe system is just a perforated pipe system. This is allowing the water to drain into the soil. Now let's have a look at a few applications of this product, and then we'll look at some other really cool designs that we've been doing. This is the streetscape, and again, the rainfall is landing on the road, and then the rainfall runs into the gutters that run down the sides of the road into the grates. And these grates here then have a pipe which sends the water into the soil cell area on your left. And this is the material that the tree is going to really suck up all of this stormwater and really help it grow. Now, Bill, what do you want to do as far as questions? I see there is a question in the Q&A. Do you want to handle these as the presentation's going on, or what would you prefer?
That's fine. And normally I don't want the speakers distracted from chat or Q&A, but you're a pro, so you can handle it. And Ivo's a friend from Snyder and Associates, and he's familiar with a lot of vegetated solutions. And he raises a good point that you've talked to me about. So if you want to answer his question while you're rolling and still keep us in 1 hour, then go for it, buddy.
Okay, very good. Small openings of inlet grates reduce glow capture.
I think he's talking in particular about your curb device that you've developed yourself to let water come in through the curb, and he's concerned about that getting plugged.
Okay, yes, very good. So we do have a solution for that. Thank you, Ivo. Maybe what I'll do, Bill, if you could get information, Ivo, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just sending your email.
And I have that. I'll share that with you too.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to send you some information on the actual device, the pre-treatment device that catches all of the silts and sediments and stops any block-ups from happening, because that is definitely a problem. And we had to manufacture our own product to overcome that. So we can get all that information to you, Ivo. Thanks for the question.
And then Jennifer Welch raised her hand, and she's a friend of mine too. She said that your audio sounds good. For anybody that's viewing this, I wish I could see you and wave back at you, but please use the Q&A if you have a question, and we'll answer it as quickly as we can. And I will say, I capture all questions. So at the end of the webinar, not only do we send out a PDH certificate to all attendees, we send out a Q&A not a Q&A. We send out a Survey Monkey, and we make you verify your name. Obviously, we'll have your email address, but your company name, and we give you 3 opportunities. 1 is to ask a question that you didn't get asked during. 2 is to tell us about a specific project that you want us to talk about, and the 3rd is just to schedule a Zoom meeting. So rather than you just being in the audience without it being able to interact, set up a meeting with us and Steve Lovering. But we will send out the answers to all of the questions that are asked today as part of that same package that has a PDH certificate in it. Thanks, Steve.
You bet, Bill. Thank you. So that's the typical streetscape application. We've come a long way since this type of design here. This was a few years ago now. And like I say, we're actually using different products to capture a lot of these silts and sediments now, instead of just letting the water drain into the gutter and then drain into the pit, because the engineers can't get behind that due to potential blockages and things. So we've overcome that problem, which is great. Parking lot applications. This is a really fantastic way of turning a lot of these spaces from grey to green. You might hear that statement used a lot. Grey to green basically means we're trying to turn a lot of these asphalt areas into green by providing canopy. The Strataflow system is underneath this parking lot here, and all of the water drains into this central trench drain, and then the trees just use the water and the soil beneath the parking lot for its growth. We typically do have aeration pipes going throughout the matrix too, which provides lots of oxygen for the trees and the soil, and this is a really, really important part of the process as well. We do have a design department which we can help all of you guys with any projects you've got, by the way. It's a completely free of charge design department. We've got 3 people within Citygreen, and all they do is look at large, or not even large scale projects, any size projects, to help engineers and landscape architects and municipalities that are interested in these such projects. Yeah, so the benefit here was we are now growing large trees in these parking lots, and we're going to provide a lot of shade and aesthetics for these vehicles. And it also helps with the maintenance of the concrete or asphalt as well, gives them a lot longer lifespan. Now, this was a really interesting project. This is the largest project currently in North America, and this was just north of you in Edmonton, Alberta. This project here, the engineer wanted to use soil cells underneath the geotextile fabric that you can see there. And the concept behind this project was we had lots of water, lots of polluted water coming off this road here. This is a really busy highway. So this water will drain into this catch basin. Now this catch basin is this catch basin here. And as you can see from the construction photograph, this is a perforated pipe that runs from the catch basin through the soil, which, by the way, this is a special type of soil, and the water permeates out of the perforations into the soil, through the soil, and into another perforated pipe at the bottom of the pit, which takes the now clean water into the city system. So it's a really cool and organic way of cleaning the stormwater. Now, we typically say, hey guys, let's put some trees into these, because the trees are going to take up a lot of the pollution and use them for its growth. But actually in this project, there was no trees whatsoever. This is just miles and miles of soil cells without trees in it. And it's a special type of soil that they reckon is going to last about 20 to 25 years. Because obviously there is a chance this soil could get toxic over time. But they spent a lot of time engineering the soil so that it would work for what they needed to. So yeah, really, really interesting project. The reason they use soil cells, by the way, is they wanted to know the area where the water was going to be coming into. So by using the soil cells, they could tell the width, the height, and the length of these pits, and only put that special type of soil in those areas. Now, this is a really cool project that we've just been a part of. This is a stormwater project again, and everything north of this light rail transit station was a parking lot, buildings, lots of hard surface. So the engineer put in a trench drain at the top of this site, which takes a lot of the water from the site to the north of it. And then the water drains from the trench drains into these perforated pipes. This is a plan view of the platform, obviously. And the square things you see there, they're soil cells. Okay, so these perforated pipes run throughout the soil cell matrix. The soil cells are all full of soil. And yes, the 3 trees that are planted in the platform are going to do extremely well. Really, really well. But more to the point is, underneath this platform, we're able to capture all of this stormwater from all of the adjacent sites and actually treat it with the soil and with the tree roots. Now, there is a collection area down there in case we had, let's say, 3 100-year storms in a row. For example, if we just got a crazy amount of rain, then of course we have an area here where the water will go back into the city system, but at least it's been run through the soil cells first and cleaned. So a really fantastic way of using these products. Now, this is the most exciting project I've ever been a part of, and I'm hoping this will ring some bells with some of you on the call today. This is a development site, and this is a typical development parcel. Now, the engineer on this project had been given the task of making this area giving it more value in 20 years when they sell it than it is today. So, of course, the engineer was thinking, and the landscape architect was thinking, hey, how can we beautify this parking lot and, make it more valuable in 20 years? Well, of course, we had a consultation with them, and the landscape architect and engineer came up with a brilliant scenario where we'd actually put the soil cells, forget all of the nice looking stuff within the parking lot. Why not spend the money on the soil cells around the outside of the parking lot? And the soil cells would not only create fantastic trees, So we'd have big, huge trees, around the whole of the parking lot, which would be fantastic on its own. But much more than that, the soil cells around the trees would be used to collect all of the stormwater running from the parking lot into these areas. Now, what that means is that we don't actually need the stormwater pond anymore, because we're getting all of the area from the soil cells. So now this development parcel just became a lot more beneficial to the developer, and in some cases the city. We've removed the stormwater pond, which is worth zero value, is very, very expensive to maintain, and this has now become more development opportunity. So let's just drill into this a little bit more. The image on the right here, this is where the soil cells are going, the blue areas. The circles are the catch basin, and this is our Strataflow shield product, by the way, that we talked about earlier. This is the product that actually traps the silts and sediments prior to them entering the soil cells, prior to the water entering the soil cells. So all of this parking lot is draining into these catch basins, which is feeding the soil cells. And when we actually did a cost analysis of this, we actually came up with some really interesting numbers. The value of the land with the stormwater pond is worth just over 14 million. The value of the land without the stormwater pond is worth 24 million. You can imagine the developer bought into this very quickly. The city were very excited. This is really going to become a huge way of doing business in the future, and really using a lot of these soil cell products to collect all of this rainfall, these stormwater in these large rain events, and use the land. I mean, we could put a park in there, we could put more buildings, we could put a bike lane. There's lots of things that we can now use that for. So some of the Citygreen services that we offer, we do have a design studio, as mentioned, totally free of charge, design for all landscape architects, engineers, and in some cases municipality as well. We've got local representation. Bill obviously works for these companies, and again, they've got various names throughout the US, but they will be stocking our products going forward. And I mean, that's huge for the contractor to be able to nip down and pick up more product when they run out, to be able to return product. There's lots of benefits and features that come with that type of relationship as well. And then we also do some monitoring as well. So when we're putting these soil cells in and the municipality wants to go in there and make changes, they want to dig, but they're not sure what these big plastic modules are below the ground, we can help with the monitoring of these soil cell applications. So they can literally click on this QR code and they can find out exactly what is below that surface. Now, our system is also unique, or our company's unique, because we do use an app for all of our installations. So that contractor, once they get signed up for the app, they can go on there, they can download live photos, live videos straight to us. Hey, Citygreen, what do you think of this? Is this right? Would you do this a little differently? You know, municipalities can be involved in this as well. Designers can be involved in this. So we can't be on site all of the time. Certainly with the distribution, it certainly helps. But this is really a fantastic way of being on site all the time and being able to answer any questions from that contractor when he has them. So just a couple of projects that we've worked on already this year. Las Vegas, we do lots and lots of projects here. We just finished a very nice streetscape in Vegas. Again, they need our product for water storage as well as for tree growth. Disney, we do tons and tons of work over the years with both Florida and California. This is a project that we recently did with them. Again, we just finished this one, and this is fantastic. If you look at how Disney bring their trees in as huge full trees with these massive root ball systems, and then we work around their root ball systems with our product. And we don't have the advantages, unfortunately, of doing this. They tend to store their trees for a few years before they bring them into their projects. Wouldn't this be nice? You know, we do some cold climates too. Winnipeg is the coldest place I've ever been It would be colder than anything you have in the US. You know, you have some places with similar climates. And then this is a really cool slide for any municipalities that might be on the call here. This is the value of the trees after 4 years worth of growth. When it was planted, it was worth $500. Now it's worth $17,500. So the difference is huge over a 4-year period. Now, if a developer wants to come along and pull these trees out, the city then has a, you know, they can either say, yes, you can, you owe us $17,500 per tree, or the alternative is we'll keep going the way we're doing it, and we've got these scraggly looking little trees that this one's actually been around for 15 years, but it's never provided any of the shade aesthetics or health benefits that we require of these trees. Some really cool outcomes, fantastic tree growth in our soil cell areas compared to even some of the greener areas. Again, return on investment, we can help you guys if you've got any questions around costs. Soil cells are not an expensive product at all. Typically to have them installed gets up there, and certainly it's more expensive than just planting a tree into a 4 foot by 4 foot square. But when you look at the ROI involved, it really is a no-brainer, especially when you include the stormwater portion into it. We're actually saving lots and lots of money by providing the stormwater application in this. We've done various laboratory reports on the soil cells and how they work with trees. We haven't done too many with stormwater yet, but we'd love to. And some of our partners across the US include all the people on here as well. So that concludes my presentation. Can we maybe open the floor now to questions, Bill? Is there any questions from anyone? Also, I should mention this as well.
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, Bill, just mention quickly as well. Pilot projects. We've got some really interesting projects that we're working across the US with various cities, towns, municipalities in general. And we're looking for anyone who's really trying to get over this line and get this kind of technology implemented. Let's try and set up a pilot project in your town or city with maybe a main street or something similar. We can, in some cases, help with the cost of the soil cells, but more important than that, we'll help with all of the monitoring information. We'll help with pictures, videos. We'll do some interviews with the people involved, and we'll get your municipality over that soil volume line, over that stormwater line, and we'll get some really cool and fantastic streetscapes happening across the US.
Steve, can you hear my can you hear my audio okay, or is it getting?
I can. No, I can, my friend. Yeah.
Excellent. So hang on, let's see if I can turn this off here. My ear. One of the things that I was going to mention, and I see a Q&A popping up here, is that Brian Williams asked, okay, I'll go ahead and jump on Brian's. Brian Williams asked us to describe the maintenance element related to these types of storage solutions. And this connects to a meeting we had yesterday where we talk about pre-treatment. You know, we're putting water into the soil that goes into these cells. We're not putting debris and sediment. So pre-treatment's a huge part of the treatment train. And Steve, you talked about one product you have. You know us, we carry a lot of different manufacturers' products. So how do you address the concern about maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, there's not too many products on the market that would be considered maintenance free, and I've certainly got in trouble before for saying that. But once we've got these soil cells into these streetscapes, and again, we've solved the problem of the silts and sediments, we typically don't have to go in there again and look for any issues. Now, if we ever do have to go in again and make any repairs to any water mains or gas mains, for example, anything like that, it's not a problem. We can go in, do a bit of HVAC to the soil, take the modules out, repair the pipe, the damage, whatever's happened, and then simply put the soil cells back together again, put the surface back together, and walk away. But we've got projects in the years, that have been around for 15 plus years, all globally, all over the world, and we are finding that the soil cells are a maintenance-free solution, as opposed to some other ways where we're running stormwater across, grass or planted plains. They do require a lot of maintenance. These things, because they're under the sidewalk, and as long as we're designing them correctly, that water's coming in through perf pipes, causing very little issues down there, and the trees are taking care of a lot of the pollutants and things like that.
Thank you, Steve. I'm gonna pile on here a little bit, some more information. I'm gonna make a plug for the International Erosion Control Association, IECA. They have an Environmental Connection magazine that just got completely revamped, in their first new issue that's gonna have an article from a local expert is this summer. I think July is when it's gonna come out. And I'm writing an article about green infrastructure, where the city of Des Moines actually put in some curbside pre-treatment devices that have a grate on top and 10.5-inch sump with a filter screen on there. And we captured a lot of debris. I personally went out and cleaned one in March of this year after it was installed September of last year. And in those few short months, it collected 56 pounds of debris. And I collected another 87 pounds of debris from a bioretention cell downstream of that. So the 56 pounds of trash and sediment that was held out of that bioretention would have went right into the mulch in the plant bed, and that would have been just sitting on the surface. And then the 80 some other pounds was leaf litter and other vegetation litter and things that landed or blew into or pushed into the bioretention area from snow removal. But the importance of pre-treatment can't be overstated, because it needs to be some curbside devices. Now, when we talk about the dirty water that's coming off the streets and parking lots, that dirty water is going to go into these soil cells and be cleaned, just like sand filters have been doing for generations and centuries. But the maintenance, you're right, the soil cells themselves should require no maintenance. And if there is any reason to get in there, yours is the only one that is easily cut into, dug into, hand dug around, removed just as needed to make those repairs, as you've said before, and then replaced. This leads to another question from my friend Jennifer Welch. She wants to talk about the amount of stormwater you can store in your system. For example, out of the parking lot, are you getting storage for the 100-year storm? What storm event can be financially practical to install? And she's asking if it's just water quality volumes, or are you doing flood storage as well? And I can answer that a little bit, Steve, after you do. And she wants to talk about just a ballpark of what kind of amounts or volumes you're expecting in your system.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for the question, Jennifer. This might answer maybe JB's as well, but the soil cells. So we have a design department that can help you with this as well. The soil cells full of soil are providing about 20% void space for stormwater. So if you take your area and you think, okay, this is, let's say it's 100 or 1,000 cubic feet or whatever, 20% of that 1,000 cubic feet will be void for stormwater. And you can use that number to figure out, hey, we've got this much stormwater capture that we need to get. Are we fulfilling that requirement? Now, our product is unique because what we can do is we can actually half fill our modules, or we can a quarter fill or 3/4 fill the actual modules, to not only hit the number of cubic feet of soil for the tree, but also the cubic feet of volume for the stormwater. So if we need a massive area of stormwater because we are allowing for a 100-year storm, that's fine, we can do that. We might need more soil cells, but we also could drop the level of soil down to allow for a larger area of volume for that stormwater. So typically this product is meant for a bit of both. It's growing trees, but it's also taking 90% of that stormwater from the roads. If we really want to be considering 50, 75-year, 100-year storms, we can absolutely make allowances for that. In fact, we could have, in some cases, we've actually had tanks below the soil cells with the soil in, completely void for those large storm events.
And we'd be happy to help with that. So me being a civil engineer, I help and I can coordinate with your engineering design team. Excellent questions, Jennifer. Those are the kind of things that we always have to address. Is if some of our systems are just purely for water quality, we always have to design an overflow bypass system. But even if it's meant for flood volume, we still have to imagine the worst case scenario. So good question, and we can work with you on that.
Sorry, Bill. Yeah, I was just going to say, so JB there, what is the calculation of source for determining live planted trees? So what we typically do is when we're looking at stormwater, we would take the soil and we do the math on that. And then as the tree starts to grow, that number actually gets better because the tree will take up more water than the soil would over time. So as those tree roots start to get larger and start to intake more of that water, that number for the stormwater engineer actually gets better and better.
I was going to help you with that, Steve, and I know it's a bit of an interruption, but I think he's asking about the tree value. This is one of the things you've talked about before. What dollar value do you put on a tree, a healthy tree?
Oh, yes. So the dollar value on a healthy tree, depending on the city, but typically large trees can be worth up to $35,000 is a number we've seen.
And he's wondering what source that is, like something that he could quote so that in his community, they could start to assign that value, because it is kind of new to some states to put a dollar value on trees like that. So where do you go to as a source for those?
So we do have a method for the city to use. A lot of cities already have their own method that maybe we worked with, or another company would have worked with them to come up with that number. So we can help you with that. Is the most straightforward answer.
Thank you. And JB knows how to get a hold of me. In fact, I'm in a city right now that's working on that. So there's different, and Steve, you know this, there's different groups that want to have more of a tree canopy. There's other groups that want to make sure each individual tree is healthy, and they're all working together with their city, county, and state to try to put values on these things.
Right, exactly. No, that's exactly right. Depending on the city, it's a little bit of a tough one to answer, but yes, that number ranges typically from, for a nice mature tree that's been growing well for 5 to 10 years, we're looking at anything from sort of 15,000 up to 35,000. In different countries around the world, that number fluctuates too. In North America, we're not quite as advanced as some of the cities that have been doing this for.
And you're able to provide some of those examples so that they can, as they get them back to their shareholders, they can make those decisions. And I heard you talk about this yesterday, your system could take the largest clumpy soil, is a nice way to say it, or simple way to say it, versus fine sandy material. And it's real important when you talk about on-site materials, so they don't have to do as much haul away or importing of soil. How do you address that with the media?
Yeah, so it's really important in most of our cities here to find a really good source of, a good soil supplier or a good soil manufacturer. It's manufactured in a lot of places. To go back to Donald's question as well, we don't need to use a special soil type for these projects. Typically, a soil that works really well to grow plants and trees is what we're looking at. When we're looking at stormwater, if it's a full stormwater project, we would typically use a more sandy product. But we at Citygreen, we basically have 3 specifications. We have stormwater, we have trees, and we have stormwater and trees. And really, the only difference between the 3 there, what fluctuates the most is organics, sands, different types of loams, like volumes of loam. So there's a few things. We don't like to make it too complex, and it's really not. So it boils down to A, B, or C, and we can share that. We can share those different types of soil with you as well.
And I'm going to take over here real quick and share screen because we have about 11 minutes left. But my friend Evo does what a lot of my friends do, and they ask questions of, the hard question is the city willing to, I might not, see if I can take it away from you. I'm going to go in here and share screen just quickly, if I can, Steve.
Yep.
And I'm going to answer.
Jump to stop sharing.
Yep, if you stop sharing, because I think you finished your slides, that'll be great, and everybody's going to see a little bit about what's happening on my screen. That's fine. I'll share a presentation that I have. I want Evo to see this. So his question is a city going to be willing to maintain inlet filters or any pre-treatment devices? Evo, let me tell you, I've worked with a lot of cities across the United States, and I've traveled to cities in other countries, and you get to answer that just as easily as I get to answer that. It depends on the city and it depends on the department. So here's our small part of this, right? If we continue to do what we've done on the right side of this, which is put in paved streets with concrete structures and put it into concrete pipes and hurry that down to a stream, a river, a lake, or the ocean, then we're going to continue to have too much water, lots of flooding, lots of sediment and trash in that water, other pollutants in that water. And our traditional gray infrastructure is just going to continue to destroy the environment, for lack of a better way of saying it. Now, green infrastructure, low impact development takes a little bit of forward thinking. So the 80 some attendees we have on this webinar, and Evo, you're one of them, are the forward thinking people that want to do better. We have to expect ourselves to do better. And rather than expect everyone else to do better, we lead by example. So these small gulps we take have filters in them. You're either doing a curbside inlet device, or you're going to do something in a structure, which we have several manufacturers of screens.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're not sharing your screen right now. Just so you know.
Oh, it's a wonderful picture. I have to be. I'm upset. I'm really upset because this is it's a good one to show. So thank you for saying that. I really want Evo to see this because I wanted to get to that next slide. Share screen, and thank you for unsharing yours. We're going to make this happen. I'm going to get to the point of this slide, and I'm going to talk about cost because he asked a really good question about cost. So the cost of the, can you see the screen now, bud?
Yeah, we got it.
The cost of the image on the left is the green infrastructure, low impact development, where this fits. And part of that cost is filters. Your car has an air filter in it, I promise you. It has a furnace filter, or sorry, a fuel filter and an oil filter and a cabin air filter. And I do a lot of auto repair, so I know about changing those. Your home has a furnace filter. It has to. If you don't change that filter, the system doesn't run well. The same will happen with low impact development, green infrastructure. And in fact, the same thing's happening with our traditional stormwater. If we don't do these things, then water's going to find a way, nature's going to find a way. That's going to be flooding. That's going to be more erosion. That's going to be more other bad things. But the answer to Evo's question is the upper right corner. The cost of a city to clean their inlets and to clean their filters, whether it be bioretention, rain gardens, storm sacks, filters, inlet filters, curb inlet filters, any of those things, is much less than the cost of going to try to retrieve that trash from our large bodies of water. And it's much less than the cost of the kids and the people who are counting on us to provide clean water. So go ahead and keep asking that question of whether or not the cities are going to maintain these, and do ask the question of whether or not there's going to be a cost associated with it. The answer is always going to be yes. There's going to be some cost associated with whoever's responsible for observing these systems and maintaining them and cleaning them. But there's also a terrible cost of the do nothing alternative. Trees have been doing this since the beginning of time. Trees are the best at it in the world. I do mission work across the country and sometimes in Central America. And I can tell you, after hurricane or tornado or flood, about the only thing remaining that survives are healthy trees. Everything else is destroyed. Everything else is temporary. Healthy trees are our best effort at not only cleaning the water and the soil, but also the air. So with that, I'll go to other quick Q&A if we have time. I get off my little soapbox. It is 12:23. We have time for more Q&A. So Evo, keep asking that question and keep expecting your community to do better, and they'll start to finance that. I'm running into that a lot. In fact, sometimes, Evo, our friends are finding that one department in a city, county, or state wants trees, or they want curb inlet filters, or they want some better stormwater quality for green infrastructure, but it doesn't necessarily pass on to the people who are actually required to do the maintenance. That we're right at the tip of the spear. This is the hard part of what we all do for a living. We can propose beautiful landscapes, but somebody has to be responsible to maintain them. So in the tree research, Steve, do you see Evo's question about leaf area index? Is that something we can send some information to him?
Yes.
Value the tree performance?
Yeah, definitely we can.
Okay.
What we're finding is, so we've been having, when we started manufacturing soil cells 15 years ago, we were really talking all about, tree growth and tree health and how cities are going to be, beautified and urban environments are going to be fantastic, which is where I come from. I mean, I was trained as a landscape architect, so that's sort of my thing. What I'm realizing now is that you really have to put a financial benefit to everything in the urban environment. And luckily now we're working on so many case studies where we're proving that financially, these soil cells are absolutely the way to go, especially when we're bringing them in to treat stormwater, which let's be honest, again, the engineering and stormwater world has a little bit more budget when it comes to streetscapes than the landscape architects or the green infrastructure people. So by using these devices for stormwater and creating the huge benefits that we have there, as a byproduct, we're also getting the tree growth, which is awesome. But please, if you don't mind, Evo and Bill, if we could add that, and I'll share the information we've done over the years on all that in Australia and Europe and here as well. We can gather whatever information we have. Maybe I'll touch on Wister's question as well while I'm here. Retrofitting around existing mature trees. This is a fantastic question, and this is something our product is very well set up to do. Our product is really flexible. We can actually cut our product without actually compromising its strength. And we can work really well with existing large trees in mature neighborhoods or streetscapes, or when they're encroaching on a parking lot, something like that. Yeah, we can absolutely help with that. And if you've got any projects where you're thinking, oh, I'd love to do one of these, again, we can talk about doing some sort of trial case study pilot project with you in your neighborhood. And again, maybe we can help with the cost of the solar cells on that too, Lister. So please get in touch about that.
And then the last one here is just keeping tree roots out of the perforated pipe. And that was maybe a little misleading on how you're directing water into the cells. That just probably came from that curb inlet device, which is usually a little higher and it's right below the surface. So that's not as much of a concern, but you can talk about what happens with the tree roots in these mature systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So usually the tree roots, of course, over time, when there's really no room or nutrients or soil for these tree roots, they tend to get out and break up concrete and asphalt and get into pipes, and they cause all sorts of problems to underground infrastructure. Now that we're providing lots and lots of room and soil and moisture and nutrients for these tree roots, we're seeing very little issues in the way of trees wrapping themselves around pipes, whether it be for oxygen or whatever else. Now, yes, the tree roots might want to get closer to the oxygen. So what we do in that case is we actually put a sock around the outside of, we wrap the perforated pipe in a sock, which stops any blockages of the air, etc., from the perf pipe. If there is a little bit of damage there from a tree root wrapping itself around the perf pipe, again, it's not a problem at all. I mean, even if they were to break the perf pipe, that's fine. It's just more oxygen coming out into the soil. So we're yet to see an issue with this, and let's hope that continues.
Steve, I love working with you. This is awesome. You're an excellent presenter, and I know you're British. If I ever mention Australia, it's because you know where the good ones are from. But one thing I like to share with my friends from around the world is we do share that one water, and that whole concept of one water matters. So what we do here in the States, or what you're doing in Canada and across the world, matters, and it all connects. The last question we'll answer, because we're running out of time, is David Mudd asked one that I love. Does this system ever work with permeable pavement? I can tell you, I haven't been on a site that has yet, but I'm promoting it like crazy. And the answer is going to be yes. We're going to have a lot of those as part of a treatment train. And that right there becomes your pre-treatment device. None of that debris is getting down through the permeable paving. It's going to be collected where they can see it and easily clean it. And then that water is going to make its way right into the tree cells. But Steve, have you personally worked with any that had permeable paving?
Yeah, lots and lots, especially in areas where there's big flooding. You know, they put the permeable paving in there to capture a lot of that flood water. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, guys, we're running out of time here. That was so great. Steve, you did a great job of leaving plenty of time for Q&A, and we had over 80 attendees today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will send out the Survey Monkey. Madeline Drury in our office is amazing at that, and she will share the written questions with Steve and I so we can provide some written answers, and that's going to go out. Give us a day or two here just to make sure we get everything buttoned up. Please look for that Survey Monkey to come via email and answer that as soon as you can. And Steve, I'm sure you'd love to have some follow-up meetings with these folks.
Yeah, we would love to have some follow-up meeting, lunch and learns. You know, if you know of any cities that could use this information, please send them along. We'll reach out to the various departments within there. That's what we do, you know, sort of for a living here. Really, really exciting stuff, guys. We're literally changing the world here. We're changing cities. We're growing nice tree canopy in these areas, and really fixing a lot of these stormwater problems that we're having globally. So really exciting chatting with you guys. This stuff's sort of hot off the press, and I hope you guys have learned something and are excited about these products. And yeah, please reach out. We'd love to hear from all of you.
Thanks, Steve. As always, I'm proud of you, mate. Good job.
Thanks, Bill. Fantastic. Thanks very much for setting this up. All right. Thanks, guys.